Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. My name is Leon. I'm 28 years old. And 2 weeks ago, my girlfriend looked me in the eye and said, "Stop trying to fix things. This is just who I am. Take it or leave it." Something inside me settled in a way that felt like a door closing. I smiled, nodded, and replied, "I believe you." She thought she had won the argument. She did not realize that in that moment, I stopped trying to fix anything at all, including our relationship. My girlfriend's name is Tanisha. She is 26 years old. We had been together for 3 years and living together for the last 18 months in a mid-sized city outside Chicago. When we first met at friends' game night, she felt like sunshine, loud laugh, big smile, easy charm. She talked about her dreams of starting her own online boutique, traveling, maybe moving to Los Angeles one day. I liked that she was spontaneous. I liked that she pushed me out of my careful routines. I had no idea how much that spontaneity would turn into chaos. At first, the messy behavior was small and easy to overlook. A dish or two in the sink, a late bill she forgot, plans she backed out of because she was tired. I told myself it was normal adjustment stuff. I was the structured one, the planner, the one with reminders and spreadsheets and savings accounts. She was the free spirit. I thought we would balance each other out. Instead, it slowly turned into me, carrying everything while she drifted from one impulse to the next. Over time, the patterns formed an ugly, clear picture. Tanisha would leave dishes in the sink for days. At first, it was just a pot from pasta or a plate from takeout. Then it became stacks. I would come home from work to the sour smell of old sauce and see flies hovering near the sink. Once I lifted a bowl and discovered mold clinging to the inside like green fur. I scrubbed it all while she lay on the couch, scrolling on her phone. When I said, "Hey, can you help me with these?" she rolled her eyes and said, "I had a long day. I will get it later." Later never came unless I made it come. The money was worse. We had agreed, like adults, to split rent and utilities evenly. At first she paid, just late. Then late became Leon. Something happened. There was always an emergency, a flat tire, a hair appointment she had already paid a deposit on, a bachelorette weekend she could not miss, a friend who really needed to borrow money. I covered the shortfall because I did not want us to be evicted. I told myself I was being supportive. In reality, I was training her to believe that if she dropped something, I would catch it. She also liked to bail on plans at the last minute. We would have dinner scheduled with my friends, or plans to see my family, or tickets to something I had bought weeks before. An hour or two beforehand, she would sigh and say, "I'm just not feeling it tonight. You go ahead without me." Sometimes she would claim a headache or a stomach ache, and then, later that same night, I would see a photo she posted from some bar or rooftop with her friends, drink in hand, smiling wide. When I pointed out, she would say, "Well, I felt better. Why are you making a big deal about it?" We had the same arguments again and again. I would sit at the edge of the bed and try to talk like an adult. "We need to talk about the dishes, the rent, the way you cancel plans. It is affecting both of us." Tanisha would cross her arms, flip her hair, and say, "You are always criticizing me. You are always trying to fix me. This is who I am. Why can you not accept me?" I would back down, feeling like the bad guy for wanting basic partnership. Then I would quietly pick up the slack again, telling myself love meant being patient. 2 weeks before everything blew up, I had a work dinner scheduled. It was not just any dinner. My manager had told me I would be officially announced as a team lead that night. It meant more responsibility, better pay, a real step in my career. Partners from corporate were flying in. Significant others were invited. I told Tanisha months in advance. I bought her a nice dress she had pointed at online. We had talked about what she might wear, how we would take pictures, how proud she would be. On the day of the dinner, I came home early, humming with nervous energy. I showered, shaved, put on my best navy suit. Tanisha was sitting on the couch in leggings and a sweatshirt, scrolling her phone absent-mindedly. I glanced at the clock. "Hey, we have to leave in 20 minutes, I said. She did not look up. "I know," she said. "My stomach is hurting. I might not go." My chest tightened. "Tanisha, this is important to me. You know that. Can you at least try to get ready?" She sighed loudly and said, "I said I might not go, Leon. I'm not trying to ruin your night. Stop pressuring me." I went back to the bedroom, trying not to show how disappointed I was. 10 minutes before we were supposed to leave, my phone buzzed. It was a text from her, even though we were in the same apartment. I am not going. Migraine hit me. Sorry. I closed my eyes, swallowed, and replied, okay. Feel better. I went alone. I smiled. I shook hands. I accepted congratulations. When someone asked where Tanisha was, I said, she is not feeling well. On my way home, I mindlessly opened social media and saw her face in a story, laughing at a crowded bar, neon lights behind her, arm around her friend Shauna, a drink raised in her hand. I stared at the screen in the parked car for a long time. The anger did not come as shouting rage. It came as a heavy, quiet clarity. When I walked into the apartment, she was not back yet. I hung my suit jacket, loosened my tie, and sat on the edge of the bed. When she came home after midnight, cheeks flushed, smelling like perfume and smoke, she said, how did it go? I said, we need to talk tomorrow. She rolled her eyes. Oh my God, not this again. Fine, Leon. Tomorrow. The next evening, I asked her to sit at the dining table. She dragged her feet like a child being told to do homework. I looked at her and said, we need to talk about patterns here. This keeps happening. You say you're too sick or tired to show up for me, but then you show up for whatever you feel like doing. It is not just the dinner last night. It is the dishes, the rent, the plans you cancel whenever you want. I am tired, Tanisha. She threw her head back and groaned. I told you I had a migraine. Why do we have to keep going over this? You are always trying to fix me, to change me, to make me fit into your little schedule. I said, I'm not trying to change you. I'm trying to work together on our relationship. These things affect both of us. We live together. We share bills. We are supposed to be a team. She put her phone down, eyes flashing, and leaned forward. Stop trying to fix things, Leon. This is just who I am. Take it or leave it. She said it slowly, like she was delivering the wisdom of the century, like those words made her strong and self-aware instead of selfish and irresponsible. In that moment, something clicked with a quiet finality. 3 years of excuses, of broken promises, of me adjusting and bending while she remained rigid and comfortable. I saw every late bill, every sink full of rotting dishes, every time I'd walked into a room full of people alone because she was not feeling it. I took a deep breath, feeling oddly calm. Okay, I said. I believe you. Her forehead smoothed, and she smiled with relief. Good. Finally, Tanisha said, grabbing her phone again, already scrolling as if the conversation were finished. I watched her thumb move on the screen and realized she truly thought she had won. She thought I would keep doing exactly what I'd always done, just silently, because now I had officially accepted who she was. She did not realize what I had actually decided. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. If this was who she was, someone who could not follow through, who put herself first every time, who saw any request for basic partnership as an attempt to fix her, then I had a choice. Either keep playing caretaker or take her at her word and live accordingly. The next morning, I started changing my behavior. Not loudly, not dramatically, calmly. First with chores. I bought my own set of dishes on my lunch break. Simple blue plates and bowls, a matching mug, 1 fork, 1 knife, 1 spoon. When I got home, I washed a spot for them on the drying rack and tucked them into a separate cabinet. From that day on, I only used my blue dishes. I cleaned them after every meal and put them away. I did not touch her dishes. Her stack of stained plates and crusted pans remained in the sink like a science experiment. When Tanisha ran out of clean dishes, she did not suddenly decide to wash the ones piled up. She ordered takeout and used plastic utensils. Then she bought a pack of paper plates and left those scattered around too. I would see half-eaten food sitting on them on the coffee table, and I would deliberately look away. The smell bothered me, but I kept the windows open, lit candles near my side of the living room, and tried not to let myself rescue her environment anymore. Next was the laundry. Tanisha had a habit of undressing wherever she stood and dropping her clothes on the floor. There were leggings draped over the couch arm, bras on the bathroom counter, socks under the coffee table, dresses in a sad heap at the foot of the bed. I used to gather them into a basket and throw them in the wash whenever I did my own clothes, folding her shirts and stacking them neatly on her side. After her "this is who I am" speech, I stopped. I stepped over her clothes and washed only mine. My side of the closet stayed orderly. Her side looked like a rummage bin. Then I addressed the bills. Rent was due the following week. Instead of sending her money and hoping she would pay, I called the landlord's office and asked if I could pay my half directly. The woman in the office said yes, as long as the full amount came in. I transferred exactly my portion with a note, my half of rent for this month. For utilities I could separate, I opened accounts in my own name and paid my part directly. For the ones we had to share, I sent in exactly half. When the internet cut off 3 days later, Tanisha shouted from the living room, "Leon, the Wi-Fi is down." I forwarded her the unpaid bill with the highlighted amount under her name and wrote, "Your half is outstanding." Then I went back to my emails. I changed how I handle plans. I stopped inviting her to everything by default. I made dinner plans with coworkers, went to a game with a friend from college, visited my sister and her kids one Saturday. I did not hide it, but I also did not announce it. When Tanisha later saw photos or heard about it and demanded, "Why did you not invite me?" I shrugged and said, "I did not want to pressure you into something you might not feel like doing. You told me you did not like being pushed." Then I would go back to whatever I was doing. The biggest shift was emotional. I stopped asking about her day. I stopped reminding her about appointments and deadlines. I stopped checking to see if she had eaten. I stopped initiating, "I love you." I stopped planning date nights, buying her little coffees when I passed her favorite cafe, or picking up her favorite candy at the grocery store, just because. I answered questions politely, discussed groceries and trash day and delivery times, but I no longer wrapped my whole emotional life around hers. For the first few days, she did not notice. She was busy with whatever was on her phone, with group chats and social media, and whatever reality show she was into that week. On day 4, she squinted at me across the couch. "You have been weird lately," Tanisha said. I kept my eyes on the book in my hands. "Have I?" I asked. "I'm just giving you space to be yourself." She frowned like she was trying to solve a puzzle, and then scoffed. "Okay, whatever," she said, turning back to her screen. By the end of the first week, our apartment looked like a physical map of our 2 different lives. My side of the bedroom was neat. Bed made, shirts hung, shoes lined up. Her side looked like a storm had passed through. Clothes in piles, makeup scattered across her vanity, half-empty water bottles, and fast food bags on the floor. The kitchen smelled like old food on her side of the sink, while my blue dishes sat clean in their cabinet. Envelopes with past due notices began arriving with her name on them. She shoved them into drawers or left them unopened on the counter. I paid my own responsibilities and let her sit. A week after her big speech, Tanisha sent me a text while I was at work. "Can we talk tonight about us?" My stomach did a slow, careful turn. I wrote back, "Sure." When I got home, she was pacing the living room with her arms wrapped around herself. I set my bag down and waited. "You have not said you love me in a week," Tanisha said, her voice sharp with accusation more than hurt. I nodded. "You have not either," I said. "You always say it first," she replied, her eyes wide like she had just revealed something obvious. "I'm not trying to change who you are anymore," I said. "If you want to say it, say it. If not, that is who you are." She stared at me, mouth open. "That is not what I mean," Tanisha said. "Why are you being like this?" I asked, "Like what?" She waved her hands at me, in frustration. "Cold. Distant. It feels like you are punishing me." I shook my head slowly. "I am accepting you for who you are. You said this is who you are. You set the terms. I am finally living by them." She opened and closed her mouth a few times. "You are twisting my words," she said quietly. "You wanted me to stop trying to fix you," I replied. I stopped. The real panic started the next day. I had always maintained a shared digital calendar for us. I added birthdays, appointments, dinners with friends, reminders to call our families. I tracked her dental cleanings, her car service, reminders for her mother's surgery checkups, and even scheduled date nights twice a month. That morning, Tanisha opened the calendar on her phone and saw nothing but blank boxes stretching into the future. No color-coded squares, no notes, no reminders. Just empty days. "Did you delete our calendar?" Tanisha asked, storming into the room while I was making coffee. "No," I said calmly. "It is still there." She thrust her phone toward me. "There is nothing on it." I shrugged. "I have not added anything." She stared at me like I had grown horns. "So you were just going to stop?" she demanded. "Stop what?" I asked. "Managing your schedule." Reminding you about things? Yes. You told me that was me trying to fix you. I'm not doing that anymore. Feel free to add whatever you want. She blinked, genuinely stunned. You always handle that, she whispered, as if I had pulled some impossible trick. Not anymore, I said, sipping my coffee. What surprised me the most was how calm I felt. I was not slamming doors or yelling. I was not making speeches. I was simply matching her effort, not a drop more. For the first time in years, I had mental space that was not taken up by tracking someone else's life. I went to the gym, started reading again, sat in silence without constantly running through a mental checklist of things I needed to do for both of us. That quiet in my own head felt unfamiliar, like entering a house that used to be crowded and finding it empty. Tanisha did not like the empty space between us. She started venting to her friends. I did not know the details until I walked into our apartment one evening and found an audience waiting for me. I had just come back from the gym bag slung over my shoulder, sweat still drying on my neck. Shauna, her best friend, sat on the couch with her arms folded. On either side of her were two of Tanisha's other friends, Crystal and Brittany. They were arranged like a panel in some kind of low-budget courtroom show. Tanisha sat in the middle of them, eyes red, looking simultaneously angry and triumphant. We need to talk about your behavior, Shauna said before I could even close the door. I dropped my gym bag by the hallway and raised an eyebrow. My behavior? I said. Meredith, Shauna started, then corrected herself. Tanisha told us everything. How you have been emotionally abusing her. How you are withholding affection, acting cold, refusing to do your share around the house. I almost laughed. Not doing my share. I asked calmly. I pay my half of everything. I clean up after myself. I handle my own responsibilities. That is my share. Crystal leaned forward, her eyes flashing. You used to do more, she said. You cannot just suddenly stop. That is manipulative. I took a breath and kept my voice level. So let me get this straight, I said. Tanisha told me this is who she is. That she cannot keep up with chores and bills and commitments. That I need to accept her as she is and stop trying to fix her. I said okay. I believed her. I stopped fixing things for her. And that is abusive. Brittany shook her head. You know she struggles, Brittany said. She's not good at that stuff. If you love her, you pick up the slack. That is what being a partner is. No, I said softly. That is what enabling is. Shauna narrowed her eyes. So now you're some kind of expert? She asked. You changed the rules in the middle of the game. She got used to you being a certain way, and now you are punishing her by taking it away. I replied, I did not change any rules. I stopped playing a role that was killing me. She set the rule when she said, this is who I am. Take it or leave it. I chose to accept that and adjust my behavior. The conversation spun in circles. Every time I laid out the facts, they twisted it into cruelty on my part. You are supposed to be the stable one, Crystal insisted. Tanisha has always been like this. You knew that. You cannot suddenly decide you are done. I said, you are right. She has always been like this. That is exactly why I am done pretending it is temporary. I am tired of feeling like her parent. Shauna crossed her arms tighter. She has options, you know, Shauna said. Terrell from her job has been really supportive through all this. I shrugged. Good for Terrell, I said. Maybe he can handle what I cannot. After they left in a storm of glares and whispered complaints, the apartment felt heavy. Tanisha paced the living room, arms flung wide. I cannot believe you embarrassed me like that, she said. I opened the fridge and took out a bottle of water, feeling the cool condensation under my fingers. How did I embarrass you? I asked. You made me look crazy in front of my friends, Tanisha said. You made it sound like I am lazy and irresponsible. I took a sip of water. I answered their questions honestly, I said. If the truth makes you look bad, that is not my problem. Her eyes filled with tears, and for a second I braced myself for the usual performance. The dramatic crying, the declarations of, I am the worst, the attempt to flip the script so I would comfort her and apologize for being too harsh. This time, I did not move toward her. When did you become such a jerk? Tanisha asked, voice shaking. I'm not being a jerk, I said quietly. I'm being exactly what you asked me to be. Someone who accepts you as you are without trying to change you. She whispered, I did not mean it like this. I replied, then how did you mean it? She opened her mouth and closed it again, unable to answer, because what she had meant was, Keep fixing everything, but do not call me out. The next night, she did not come home. Around 11 that night, my phone buzzed with a message, staying at Shaunis. I need space to think. I stared at the text for a moment, then typed back one word. Okay. I did not ask when she would be back. I did not ask if she was all right. I did not send 3 follow-up messages offering to talk. I set my phone on the nightstand, put on a show, and fell asleep halfway through, feeling strangely light. Tanisha returned the following evening, jangling her keys loudly as she walked in. I was in the kitchen meal prepping for the week, chicken, rice, roasted vegetables neatly arranged in glass containers. She hovered in the doorway, waiting for me to turn, waiting for the questions and the tension and the pleas to work things out. I turned off the stove burner, stirred the pan, and said, "Hey." She stared at me. "That is it?" Tanisha asked. "Hey." I looked over my shoulder. "What else would you like me to say?" I asked. "I was gone all night," she said. "You did not even call." I set the spoon down and faced her fully. "You said you needed space," I replied. "I gave it to you." Her eyes filled with tears, but they looked different this time, less calculated and more genuinely bewildered. "You did not even care where I was," she said. "You are an adult," I said. "You told me where you were. There was nothing for me to worry about." She shook her head slowly. "This is not how it is supposed to work," she murmured. "How is it supposed to work for us?" I asked. "You are supposed to fight for me," she whispered. I held her gaze. "Fight for what?" I asked. "You told me who you are. I accepted it. Now I am living accordingly." That night, after she retreated to the bedroom and slammed the door, I opened my laptop at the kitchen table and started looking at apartments. For the first time, I allowed myself to imagine a life that did not include cleaning up her messes. I found a small studio closer to my office, in a quiet building with a decent gym and a little park nearby. The picture showed hardwood floors, a big window with light streaming in, and just enough room for a bed, a couch, and a small table. It was simple, but it looked peaceful. I filled out the application and closed the laptop, my heart beating faster but steadier than it had in a long time. 2 days later, my phone rang during a meeting. It was my landlord. I stepped out into the hallway to answer. "Just calling to confirm," he said. "I will have the full rent payment by the 5th, right?" I frowned. "I already paid my half," I replied. "Tanisha is paying her half separately now." There was a pause. "She told me you always pay the full amount," he said. "I told her I need the full balance, or I have to start eviction proceedings." I closed my eyes briefly. "Not anymore," I said. "I have already paid my share. She will need to cover hers." 20 minutes later, my phone lit up with rapid-fire messages from Tanisha. "What did you tell him?" "He says we will be evicted. This is so messed up. You always pay the rent. I do not have it right now. Please just pay it, and I will pay you back. Answer your phone. You are trying to make me homeless. This is abusive." I read them all, then typed one reply. "You have 3 days to figure it out. Maybe ask Terrell from work since he is so supportive." Then I muted the conversation, put my phone face down, and went back to the meeting. That evening, Tanisha was waiting by the door when I came in. Her breathing was shallow, eyes wide with panic. "You have to pay the rent," she said before I could even set my keys down. "No," I replied calmly. "I have to pay my half," which I did. "I do not have $750, she said, voice rising. "That sounds like a problem you need to solve," I said. "Where am I supposed to get it?" she asked, hands flying up. "From your job, from your savings, from your parents, from Terrell," I said. "I do not know. You are an adult, Tanisha. My parents will kill me if they find out I cannot pay rent," she cried. "Then I guess you better figure it out," I said. "How can you be so cruel?" she whispered. "I'm not being cruel," I replied. "I'm treating you like the independent adult you keep insisting you are. This is who you are, remember? Someone who does not need anyone trying to fix their problems." She stared at me for a long moment, then stormed into the bedroom and slammed the door. A while later, I heard her on the phone with her parents, her voice wobbling as she cast herself as the victim of my sudden change. About an hour after that call, my phone buzzed again. This time it was her father. "What is this about you refusing to pay rent?" he asked, voice already stern. "With all due respect," I said, "I paid my half. Tanisha is responsible for hers." "That is not how relationships work, son," he said. "You are supposed to take care of each other." I said, Your daughter told me to stop trying to change her and to accept who she is. She is someone who struggles with financial responsibility. I have accepted that. I am no longer hiding the consequences." He was silent for a second, then said, "So you are going to let her be evicted?" I replied, "I'm going to let her experience the results of her choices. She has had 3 years of me covering for her." He hung up on me without another word. An hour later, Tanisha's phone chimed. She rushed to check it and let out a relieved sob. Her mother had sent her $750 through a money transfer app. Crisis averted. Tanisha muttered as she typed a tearful thank you. I watched her from my seat at the table and realized that nothing about this scared her enough to truly change. To her, this was just another fire that had been put out by someone else. Meanwhile, an email popped into my inbox. My application for the studio apartment had been approved. Move-in date, 2 weeks from Friday. The next morning, Tanisha's parents called again. From the way she shouted behind the closed bedroom door, I gathered it did not go well. Her mother, from what I could hear, was done. There were phrases like, "You are 26, not 16, and we are not bailing you out again, and if you cannot handle living on your own, you will move back home." When Tanisha finally came out, her face was blotchy and her eyes were swollen. "I need to talk to you," she said, voice brittle. I was making breakfast, eggs sizzling in the pan. "Okay," I said, not turning away from the stove. "My parents are threatening to cut me off," she said. I flipped one of the eggs over. "That is rough," I said. She stared at me like I had slapped her. "That is all you have to say?" Tanisha asked. "What would you like me to say?" I replied, "I do not know. Maybe care. Maybe help me figure this out. Maybe act like we are a team," she said. I turned off the heat and set the pan aside. "You told me to stop trying to fix things," I said. "This sounds like you asking me to fix things." She let out a wordless shout of frustration and stormed back into the bedroom. I plated my eggs and ate in peace at the table, the clink of my fork the only sound in the apartment. That afternoon, while I was at work, my phone buzzed with a message from the landlord. "Your girlfriend just came by," he wrote. "She asked to be removed from the lease and said you were emotionally abusive and forcing her out. What is going on?" I stepped into a quiet stairwell and called him. "I'm not forcing anyone out," I said. "She wants off the lease." He confirmed it. "She said she feels unsafe," he added, sounding skeptical. "Well," I said, "that actually works out. I have a new place lined up. I am happy to sign a lease termination if she is." He sounded surprised. "I thought you would fight it," he admitted. "No," I said. "When can we sign?" He said he could have the paperwork ready by the next day, but if we terminated, we would both need to vacate by the end of the month. "That is perfect," I said. When I walked into the apartment that evening, Shauna was there again, sitting beside Tanisha on the couch. Crystal was in the armchair, and Brittany leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Tanisha was crying, head buried in Shauna's shoulder. "Are you happy now?" Shauna demanded. "Look what you have done." I set my bag down by the door. "What exactly have I done?" I asked. "She wanted to get off the lease because she cannot live like this anymore," Shauna said. "She feels trapped, and you are just fine with that." I nodded. "Actually, there is good news," I said. "The landlord called. He is drawing up lease termination papers. We can sign them tomorrow. We both have to be out by the 30th. The room went silent. Tanisha's head snapped up like someone had yanked invisible strings. "What?" she asked. "You want off the lease," I said calmly. "I want off the lease. It works for both of us. I already have a new place." Her mouth dropped. "You already have a place?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "A studio apartment. I move in on the 28th. Shauna glared at me. "So you were planning to leave?" she accused. "I was planning to leave a situation where I am expected to act like a caretaker instead of a partner," I replied. "Tanisha just made it easier by starting the lease termination process." "I did not think you would agree," Tanisha whispered. "Why would I not?" I asked. "You are unhappy. I am unhappy. This solves both our problems." She stared at me, panic rising in her eyes. "Where am I supposed to go?" she shouted. "That is for you to figure out," I said. "Shauna's place? Your parents' house? Terrell's couch?" "I do not know." Shauna stepped in. "You are really going to make her homeless?" she demanded. I shook my head. "I'm not making her anything," I replied. "She is an adult who decided to remove herself from the lease. Choices have consequences." That opened the floodgates. "Wait, we can work this out," Tanisha said, scrambling to her feet. I will try harder. I will do the dishes. I will start paying on time. I will change. We do not have to do this. I looked at her, and for a moment I felt a flicker of the old instinct to cave, to believe promises delivered in a crisis. Then I remembered every other time she had sworn, I will be better, and how it always faded as soon as the immediate danger passed. This is who you are, I said gently. Remember? I'm not asking you to change. I'm just choosing not to live with it anymore. Her face twisted, the desperation turning to anger. Fine, Tanisha yelled. You want to throw away 3 years? Go ahead. But do not come crawling back when you realize what you lost. I nodded once. Noted, I said. That night and the next day, she went on social media. According to mutual friends, she posted a dramatic story about how I was kicking her out, how I had turned cold and abusive, how I was abandoning her with nowhere to go. Messages started rolling into my phone from people who were more her friends than mine. How could you do this to her? One person wrote, she loves you. Work it out. Another said, you are showing your true colors, man. She deserves better. I did not respond to any of them individually. Instead, I made one short post visible to our mutual circle. Tanisha requested to be removed from our lease. I agreed. We were both adults making our own decisions. I did not add any more details. I did not defend myself with screenshots or explanations. I simply let the facts stand. Then I muted and blocked a handful of people whose messages crossed the line from concern into harassment. After the lease termination was set, Tanisha shifted tactics again. Suddenly, she was the perfect girlfriend she had always insisted she could be, if people would just support her. One night, she cooked dinner, spaghetti that she overcooked until it was gummy and soft, but she set the table with candles and smiled nervously as she watched me take a bite. See, she said, I can do this. Another day, she cleaned the bathroom, scrubbing the tub until it shined. She wore the lingerie I had bought her 2 years earlier that still had tags on it, leaning against the bedroom doorframe and saying, remember how good we are together? I watched her quietly, feeling something like sadness, but not the kind that made me want to stay. You are not being yourself, I said one evening when she curled up next to me on the couch, pressing her body against mine. You are performing what you think I want. Is that not what you wanted? She asked, voice small. For me to try? I shook my head. No, I said. I wanted a partner who naturally reciprocated effort. You are showing me this is not natural for you. It is forced. How long do you think you could keep this up? A week? A month? Before you resent me for making you do it. Her shoulders slumped. We both knew the answer. The next morning, we met the landlord to sign the lease termination papers. We sat on opposite sides of his desk, pens in hand. Tanisha's jaw was tight, eyes glossy, but she did not speak. When we finished, he pulled me aside in the hallway while she waited by the elevator. For what it's worth, I get it, he said quietly. I had a tenant like her before. Always excuses, always somebody else's fault. You were doing the right thing. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of relief and grief. When we rode the elevator down together, the silence between us was thick. Back at the apartment, reality hit her hard. She had 2 weeks to find a place to live, and suddenly all those options her friends had thrown in my face were not so solid. Her parents insisted she move back home and get her life together, which meant returning to their small town in Indiana, 3 hours away, giving up most of her social life. Shauna, whose apartment had been an occasional crash pad in the past, said there was no way Tanisha could move in long term. You left my place a mess the last time you stayed, Shauna told her bluntly over the phone. I cannot deal with that again. As for Terrell from her job, the allegedly very supportive co-worker, he had a girlfriend who was not thrilled about Tanisha suddenly showing great interest in sleeping on his couch. According to a mutual co-worker, that conversation ended quickly and awkwardly. Other friends offered sympathy, long text messages, and comforting comments online, but when it came to sharing an actual roof, everyone suddenly had a reason they could not help. 3 days before we were supposed to move out, Tanisha cornered me in the living room. Boxes were stacked against the wall, most of them mine, labeled with neat handwriting. Please let me stay here for another month, she said. I will sleep on the couch. I just need time to find a place. I promise I will figure it out. I shook my head. No, I said. You have your parents' house as an option. Take it. I cannot move back there, she said, voice breaking. My life is here. I answered. Then you should have thought about that before treating your life here like it was someone else's responsibility. Moving day came faster than I expected. Over the last week, I had slowly been packing my things. As I boxed up the TV, the couch, the dining table, the kitchen appliances, the bedroom furniture, I realized how much of our life together had actually been mine. She had contributed a few throw pillows, some wall art, a couple of candles. Her belongings barely filled a corner of the living room, and seeing that imbalance laid out in cardboard and bubble wrap pushed the truth into sharp focus. I had been carrying most of the weight in more ways than one. The night before the movers came, Tanisha appeared in my bedroom doorway wearing that same lingerie again. Her eyes were red, but her tone was more seductive than sad. One last night, she said, for old time's sake. I shook my head. No, I said. Seriously? She asked, anger kindling under the hurt. You will not even do that. I sighed. Tanisha, you are trying to use sex as a bargaining chip, I said. That just reinforces what has been wrong between us from the start. You have treated affection as currency to pay for me fixing things. That is not what I want. Something in her broke then. She sat on the edge of the bed and put her face in her hands, shoulders shaking with deep, ugly sobs. This was not the polished crying she used to end arguments. This was raw. I did not know how to be different, Tanisha said. This is all I know. I do not know how to catch up. I feel like everyone else got a manual and I did not. I sat in the chair in the corner, hands loosely clasped. I know, I said quietly, and that is not your fault. But it is also not my responsibility to fix. You have to want to fix it for yourself. What am I supposed to do? She asked, voice small. Figure it out like adults do, I said. Maybe moving back home will give you some space to work on yourself without dragging someone else down in the process. Her eyes hardened. You never loved me, she said. You love feeling superior. You love being needed. I considered that and nodded slowly. Maybe there is some truth to that, I admitted. I stayed too long because being needed made me feel important. That is another reason this needs to end. We are not good for each other. She spent that last night at Shauna's again. I finished packing in a quiet apartment, taping boxes shut, stacking them neatly by the door. When the movers arrived at 8 in the morning, they worked quickly. By 10, most of my belongings were loaded into the truck. Tanisha arrived around 9:30 with her father in a rented moving van. She avoided looking at me. Her father glared, but he did not say anything. Her boxes, mostly clothes, shoes, and a few decorative items, barely filled a corner of the truck. Walking through the apartment, once everything was removed, felt surreal. The echo of our footsteps on the bare floors made the place feel smaller. Without my furniture, Tanisha's few remaining items felt almost lost in the space. As I checked the kitchen cabinets one last time, she approached me. I hope you are happy, she said, her voice flat. I took one last look at the place we had shared. I hope we both find happiness, I said. Her eyes narrowed. Do not act noble, she snapped. You destroyed us. I shook my head. No, Tanisha. You told me who you were. I believed you. We destroyed this together. I handed my keys to the landlord, thanked him, and walked out without looking back. The air outside felt different, lighter somehow. A few days later, I got a couple more angry messages from her friends. Shauna sent one particularly harsh text about how I had ruined Tanisha's life and how she would never forgive me. I finally replied once. Tanisha is 26 years old, I wrote. She chose to not do chores, to not pay bills on time, to not hold a steady job, to not save money, to not maintain her credit, to not reciprocate emotional effort, and to tell me this was who she was and that I needed to stop trying to change it. I accepted her choice. The consequences of those choices are not me ruining her life. They are her life catching up to her. Then I blocked them all. From what I heard through a mutual acquaintance at work, Tanisha did move back in with her parents. She got a job at her mother's office doing clerical work. Online, she started posting vague quotes about narcissistic exes and men who cannot handle strong women. In some versions of the story, I financially abused her. In others, I abandoned her without warning. I listened once as a friend tried to summarize one of her rants and felt no urge to correct it. People will believe whatever version fits their view of the world. I knew what actually happened. My studio apartment is small, but it is mine. The first night I slept there, I woke up early to sunlight pouring through the big window and the quiet hum of the city below. I could see the corner cafe from my kitchen, the one I had liked for years but never lived close enough to walk to. My blue dishes sat stacked in a neat pile in the cupboard, no crusted pans festering in the sink beside them. The bathroom stayed clean because I cleaned it. The trash went out when it was full because I took it. The bills were paid on time because I handled them. The peace surprised me the most. I had not realized how exhausting it was to constantly compensate for someone else's refusal to take responsibility. All those mental checklists. Did she pay that bill? Did she call her boss? Did she remember the appointment? Did she eat? Vanished. In their place, there was quiet. I went to the gym, came home, cooked simple meals, listened to music. Some nights I sat on the couch and did nothing at all, and it felt like breathing fresh air after years of smoke. A few weeks after the move, I started therapy. I wanted to understand why I stayed so long, why it took a single sentence for everything to finally click. Sitting in that office, I talked about my childhood, about how I had grown up being the responsible one, the fixer, the person everyone leaned on. The therapist gently pointed out the pattern. I had built my identity around being needed. With Tanisha, that instinct had been given unlimited room to expand until it nearly swallowed me whole. You did not just break up with her, the therapist said. You were breaking up with a version of yourself. The more distance I got, the more I noticed how simple healthy interactions could be. One afternoon, a coworker named Anika asked if I wanted to grab coffee after a shift. We walked to a cafe near the office, ordered drinks, and sat by the window. She paid for her own coffee without making it a dramatic gesture or expecting me to insist. She showed up on time. She asked me about my day and actually listened. When I asked about hers, she answered without turning it into a monologue about how the world was against her. There was no tension, no subtle pressure, no sense that I needed to manage her life for her. It felt normal. Normal felt revolutionary. Looking back, Tanisha did me a favor the night she said, "This is just who I am." 8 words cracked open the illusion I had been clinging to, the idea that if I loved her enough, if I tried hard enough, if I carried enough weight for both of us, someday she would step up. She was right about one thing. You cannot fix people. They have to want to fix themselves. There is nothing wrong with not being ready to change. But there is something deeply wrong with expecting someone else to break themselves, forever picking up your slack, just so you can stay exactly the same. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.